Hello, my name is Solocristus IHS, and today we're going to talk about how to make Christian video games and other forms of media. Now, although there are some media producers that create content directly about Christ, there are a lot of Christian creators that don't. They may write about fantasy, make horror games, do reconstructions of ancient artwork, etc. And these may be hard pieces of media to actually incorporate Christ into. However, there is some stuff that you can do to actually make Christ the centerpiece of your work. You may be asking, what can you do? There's actually quite a bit that can be done, and they are actually extremely simple. Now, in order to make things simple, I'm actually going to use my favorite game as an example. It's going to be the Xenoblade Chronicles, specifically Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I'm not affiliated with Nintendo in any way. However, these two games I can see a lot of influence in terms of Christ coming up a lot, and they are excellent examples of what you can do. Names. Names are one of the most important and one of the easiest things to do. Now, when you're creating any sort of piece of media, whether that be a video game, a novel, a movie, whatever it may be, you're going to have settings, you're going to have characters, and you have objects. All these things come together to make a story or to make an artwork, and all of these things must have names of some sort. And you can actually name these people, places, things after biblical characters and biblical places. For example, you can name your main character of whatever RPG you're making Korra. And Korra is a ancient Israelite. And while most non-Christians may not get this, a lot of Christians will. You may name a overpowered sword the Sword of Ashkelon. It sounds really cool, however it's actually a name of a real place. Inside Xenoblade Chronicles, a lot of places and names are actually biblical. So there are characters named Korra, and there's all these different references like Ontos, Logos, and Numa, who are the names of certain characters, and it ties back in these obscure ways that non-Christians may not get, however lots of Christians will get. Another thing that you may want to consider using are icons. I'm not talking about the Eastern Orthodox or Roman Catholic version of an icon, where it's this painted picture of a saint, a martyr, or Jesus Christ himself. I'm talking about symbolic objects that can lead us to remember what Christ has done for us in our lives, such as a cross or a chalice. Especially in a horror game, where instead of painting, you can put a little cross or a little chalice or some other object that symbolizes Christ within like a little corner where it may not be easily seen, but how it's still there. Now, especially inside horror, these little fragments of hope will actually catch the eye, especially of Christians, and it doesn't take that much away from the actual experience, but you still get to glorify Christ. Now, this next session may not be the best advice if you're trying to cater towards children and make stuff G or PG. However, you may want to go into sort of sin and morality within whatever video game or book that you're writing. This may not work the best for still arts, however, you can still make it work. So, a lot of times you may want to make your character this very upright and zealot person. However, that may not actually be the best thing to do. It's not realistic, but it's also not Christ-like. So, everyone in one point of their lives goes into very dark places, wherever that may be, and that's okay. Because, as it says inside 2 Corinthians 12, therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. It is through our weakness that we are able to come closer to Christ, as I'm sure a lot of you know. So use this. Take your characters to some very dark places and then have something bring them up, whether it be a little god, something divine, or even them realizing that there's something bigger to look for in the world. And this can actually lead to some actual conversions, because people who will read your media, whether it be your book or they play your game, they will see that these people in the game are going to these dark places and then coming back, and they may see you go to dark places and then come back. And they can see a correlation and then decide to commit themselves to Christ, just as you have committed yourself to Christ. So that's something to think about as well. But the single most important thing of all of this, the only thing that's going to really matter, is leaving it to God. Do not ever try to force anything into your artwork, into your media, into your game or your novel, if it is not meant to be there. God will show you the way, and if it's not meant to be, He will show you that's not meant to be. That is the most important thing. As long as you remember this, you will be fine. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you got some more ideas for some things you can include into a video game that you're making, into a novel you're writing, an artwork that you're making, or a film that you're filming. And may God be with you always.